Hey everyone. So I'm going to share with you a recording that I received on Instagram. Not a, text or typed out message, but an actual voicemail. And we'll just go from there. First I'm going to play it.
Hey, so I have a question. So I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom, except like 2, 3 times a week I go to the gym, and I send my kids to the kids club, and that's like an hour and 30 minutes. My kids are 2.5 and 1.5. And my mother-in-law takes my 2.5-year-old once a week every Wednesday from like 10:30 to like 7 p.m. And recently she's been like super like not like asking for us all like 4 to like 5 to 6 times a day, like wanting to go home frequently, blah blah blah. And I use Wednesday to like get stuff done and like whatnot. Like, is that bad? Like, is it like I personally feel like whenever she's at my in-laws' house, like she's seeing the same people. It's grandma, grandpa, great grandma, uncle, and sister. It's like never changing, obviously. Like it's the same family members that she sees every time she goes over there. And we're there like at least like twice a week, like either for dinner or what.
It came in two different forms.
I just want to know, like, what are you thinking about that? Like, is it fine, like, for her? Like, I personally think it's fine that she spends the day every Wednesday, like, with my mother-in-law, because I think it's good for her to like not just be around me, because that's pretty much who she's around. It's just me and like a few, maybe sometimes we go to the library and like we do a few like toddler activities, but that's pretty much it. And then I go to the gym and she plays with the kids there. And it's always the same people like working at the kids club. Like I'm just wondering, like, can you give me your thoughts on what you think about like the arrangement we have? Like again, I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom. Like I'm with them Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like so I'm with them a lot of the time. And then if I'm not, like either my husband's with them or my mother-in-law's with them or my brother-in-law's with them.
Okay, the reason I'm going to take the time to answer this, and which, by the way, that's not really the way to get a hold of me. Actually, that's the first time I've gotten a recording uh, with a question on it. And just DMing in general is not the best way to communicate with me. I have a website and a contact form that you can reach out um, if you have a question that way. However, I'm going to answer this because this is not, I mean, she is not alone. And I am now convinced that it's just a bona fide epidemic where the modern generation, and by that I mean, I guess Gen Z, but I also mean millennials, the tail end of millennials. So I think millennials right now are hovering around 40 at the oldest, 41, like 27 to 41, something like that. And then younger than 27 is Gen Z. So it could be either group. But there is just a definite lack of education about the needs of children, especially very young children, which, isn't surprising because why would they know? Um, the world has changed so dramatically in terms of our values and what we um, know about children as a result of that, because we're such a career focused, money focused society. I'm a Gen Xer. You all know that. And in my day, babysitting was the norm. I mean, as a teenager, you babysat like a lot. At least the people in my world did, and I certainly did. So by the time we got, like in my case, I went on to get a degree in education and studied childcare and then became a stay-at-home mom. So my life has been children, but even for those who didn't do it professionally, you still had a pretty good grasp of what the needs of children were, just from life being so different back then. But at any rate, that's not the case for the modern generation. So there is just an influx of questions about really basic things. And I think a lot of it has to do with the focus, the hyper focus on extremes in our country. So because we've played out this 20-year working mother, it's okay if you're not home, kids can be in daycare thing, and we realized that's not good. We've gone overboard, a lot of people, in the other direction, to the point where there are people homesteading and living off the farm and homeschooling and being with their kids 24/7, which is absolutely fine if you want to do that. But that's an extreme version of that's just the opposite extreme. most people are going to fall somewhere in the middle, in my opinion. And so I wanted to set the record straight about some of these really basic things that I'm getting asked. And so I'm using her story as an example. This gal who wrote that, left that message, sounds very, very similar to how I lived my life when I was home with my kids, where it was pretty much me and my husband when he was home, but he worked regular full-time job. She talked about going to the gym a couple times a week and putting her kids in the little room next to you while you do that for an hour. I did that. I had a mom who never really took care of them for me on any kind of regular basis, but was always there to help for sure. And a lot of times it involved my presence as well. But just to answer her specific question, no, there's nothing harmful about anything that you just described. That's like a normal way of raising kids for generations, right? You're doing the bulk of the work, but you have family around. And of course you're going to be apart from your child for some length of time. Because families are so spread out, it's caused questions about if it's okay for a mother to ever be apart from their baby, which was certainly never my argument. And I don't think most people's arguments. Again, those extremes. You're not supposed to be attached to your baby 24/7. Otherwise, you're going to harm them. That's not the point. Specifically, that question about being with the grandma or the in-law all day, that is a long time depending on the age of the child and if the naps are getting interrupted, and if the child is asking not to be there so long, then yes, you should respond to that and alter the schedule. But that doesn't mean you're harming them because they're with their grandma for the day. No. So let's just talk about a few parameters that I can give you. One is the difference between daycare and preschool. A lot of people don't understand that. Daycare is essentially anything under 3 years of age, and there's no school component to it, nor should there be, because that's not what's important in those early years. And what matters more than anything else is the length of time. So if you were going to hypothetically drop your baby off at a daycare center, nobody does this, but for an hour a day, 5 days a week, for an hour each day, which why would you do that? That would not be harmful. It's the number of hours that children spend away from their parent, their mom specifically, for too long of a time, and then what that environment is that they're in for that length of time. So there's a difference, for example, between 8 hours with grandma on a Wednesday, like this gal's call, and 8 hours in a daycare center. Definite difference there. Where preschool begins and daycare ends is roughly around the age of 2. I'm sorry, 3. Some people, we have actually kind of started in this country to call that preschool at 2.5, but it's not necessary at all. There's no academic component to those early years until you hit around 3.5, 4 years old. So and then the socialization piece is another question on that. So yes, preschool is good and fine for a few hours, several days a week. So 2 to 3 hours, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, once you're around 3 or 4 years of age. And the point of that is to you get that bonding taken care of in the early years, and you slowly introduce separation, and then slowly introduce this socialization thing, which basically means going out into the world with other kids, right? And that's a very slow process. And we want to rush it because that's the way we live today. And it can't be rushed without repercussions. And so that's where a lot of this confusion comes in. So that's the difference between daycare and preschool. Preschool is just several hours a day, a couple of days a week before kindergarten, right around the age of 3 or 4, 3.5, 4, 4.5. Anything before then is daycare. So that's that boundary, hopefully. I hope that's clear on that boundary. The main thing to understand is that the goal is not to be 24/7 with mom, otherwise you're harming your child. But you need to be the go-to person and the overseer of pretty much everything in those early years, so that you are in control of the child's schedule, the child's eating and sleeping. This is all very, very slow, methodical um, job, really, in those early years, especially how to teaching a baby how to sleep. That can go on for a year or more. And if and when you look at it that way, and you understand that your baby or child isn't meant to be in any kind of group setting at the beginning in the early years, and that it's great to be with family, but that doesn't mean all day every day. So it's really the greatest distinction I can help you with is understanding the difference between daycare and preschool, which hopefully I just gave that, and also understanding the number of hours is really what's critical here in these early years. It's not the mere exposure to daycare or preschool or grandma, although those are not all in the same plane, by the way. It's the exceptionally long hours away from home and away from mom at one time, because that interrupts what you have going on with your child in those early years, and it interrupts their eating and sleeping schedule, which can sort of wreak havoc on you and the baby child later, because if he's sleep deprived, you're going to feel the brunt of that, right? Not the person who you've left him or her with. So that's really the thing to understand about the early years, is that it's the number of hours. And 4 hours to you is like a blink, but to a baby or a child, it's just an eternity. It's an eternity. So that, I think, going back to this call, my guess is, without knowing more specifics, that her child is saying, "It's too long, mom. I love mom. I mean, I love my grandmother, but I don't want to be here all day." That would be my guess. So just shorten that period of time. You can still drop her off on Wednesdays for a few hours to go do what you're doing. Just don't make it an 8 to 4 thing. That's really the key here, is understanding that time to you and me is not the same as a time to a child. Everything moves super slowly for them. And you learn this when you have a baby, and not just a baby, but even in toddler mode, just getting out the door takes forever. And walking down the street, she or he is going to walk at a snail's pace compared to you, and you have to stop and move at their pace. And it's the same with their development. You can't rush it. It's slow. It's sometimes excruciatingly slow. And there are stages. And you just have to pay attention and back it up, because that's a message to this gal who left this message for me. That's a message from her daughter, I think, saying, "I love grandma, but I don't want to be here all day. That's a little much." So that's it. There's more to this conversation for sure, but I wanted to just jump on here and answer that publicly, because I keep hearing so much confusion about how long you can be apart from your child, whether it's grandma or a group setting. And yeah, just hope that helps to clarify that.